All right, welcome in. It is Friday. It is time for Full Court Press. That stream took forever to go live, but it looks like we are live.
I started
right now.
panicking.
At least I was going to say, at least that's what this little red light suggests on my screen. So hope you can see us and hear us. How was your Thanksgiving, Brian?
You ask me how my Thanksgiving was any year, I'll tell you the same thing. Okay, what's going on right now? I ate too much yesterday. My wife is inexplicably putting up Christmas decorations right now, and I just want to go in the basement and watch games and seek refuge. That's what we're going to do. But before we do that, of course, we've got an hour to break down a college hoop slate that I'm very excited about, Trig, because I'm not very excited about the college football slate at all today. So I really dove even more into this than I would normally. Because very excited. Let's some very interesting games. We have 28 teams still undefeated in the country. We're guaranteed to lose at least one, and I think over the next week or so, we're going to lose certainly a lot more than that.
Yeah, I'm still excited to break down the card. I've had a couple rough days. I was joking yesterday. It turned into famine week for me, Brian. It was feast week on Monday when I went 5-1. It's been famine week ever since. I've had one of the worst sort of 3-day coolers that I've had in quite some time, which is it is what it is. I guess I feel like I've beat numbers. I feel like I have 8-point leads in the second half of a lot of these games, and they just don't win. So we got to get it right. We got to right the ship.
Well, on one positive note here, Trig, I didn't know that you had dropped a couple earlier in the day yesterday, but I was very pleased because I knew you had the 2 rough days. We didn't speak yesterday, obviously, or the day because I was running around, but you and I both had Colorado State money line yesterday. I saw you tweeted that play out. I had it. We did not speak at all, folks. It just so if you had the package or anything and got Colorado State from both of us, there was no communication on that. That was just 2 great minds coming together, and that was a pretty easy one.
See, that's what I'm talking about. When you're running good, that's an easy one. When you're running like I have the last couple of days, a 21-point lead becoming a 6-point.
Oh yeah, I felt terrible for you. Yeah, because I knew you had to be. Yeah, he had to be. I was cursing the Ravens offense at that time as well too, with on the other screen. So,
but yeah, we got that one done. We actually agree on one today that we'll talk about on the show. That's a client play for both of us, and it's Friday. We got a new slate of games. It's also November. That's the thing. I feel like for me personally, I'm kind of like the baseball player that comes out. Maybe I started in a 2 for 23 slump, and I've got to look at my batting average on the scoreboard. You know how that happens in baseball where guys hitting $110 through the month of April, and it's sucks that you have to look at that. But it is what it is. We're gonna turn it around, and we've got a bunch of people in here now. So let's get right into it. Feature game. I showed up dressed for the occasion. Madison Square Garden early tip. I think this one is 12:30 or 1 o'clock, but it is the biggest game of the day, so we've got to talk about it.
12:30.
12:30, yeah. And MSG will be bumping. That's the one thing about New York City. MSG does not matter what time, and if it's a UConn Huskies game, you can expect that the folks will be out in droves for that. It'll be all UConn fans. Stores West, as some may call it. They always get a big-time turnout at the Garden, and it's a big-time game against an Illinois team that you've been pretty high on this year. So talk to me. UConn, Illinois, line move. What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, 12:30 on Fox. This is absolutely going to be on one of my many screens in the basement, and I don't agree with this line move. Maybe you have some information which will tell me why the line is moving the way it has. I'm a little lower. You talked about me being, it's sort of twofold, Trig. Number one, I'm pretty high on this Illinois team right now. Number two, I kind of UConn and Florida. I'll say my power ratings are sort of bizarrely low. I've been looking into it. I'm is this, I was so mad I didn't fade Florida yesterday because my number said to fade Florida. They've kind of consistently been saying to fade the defending national champs. But as for this game, I make this game a pick 'em. And with the line moving the way it has, at some point, I may get interested in taking the points with the Fighting Illini here. Why would I do such a thing? Well, not just straight numbers, guys. Illinois is a team up front that can actually compete with UConn, right? We talk about this UConn team, Trig. What do we always talk about? Well, we talk about how great they are up front. Illinois, 3rd in the country in rebounding margin. I think they're getting help. I know I think I don't think I know because we had the conversation. I was there for the conversation before we went live. But you're talking about UConn maybe getting a little healthier. Illinois maybe getting a little healthier as well. Joey Cheese, I see in the chat. I knew if, I was actually, while I was delivering this soliloquy, I was like, I hope Joey Cheese is not catching the show live today. I'm not a hater, Joey Cheese. I am simply reporting what my spreadsheet tells me to say here. And I think Illinois, it's not going to make my card. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not going to bet the game. I am simply here to tell it because I know people get very upset. Oh, you said this a few hours ago. All I'm telling you guys is I make this game a pick 'em. And if this number continues to move, maybe then I do get involved on the Illini. But that was a kind of a long-winded answer just to say I don't agree with the line move.
Cheese knows the UConn Huskies. Like, that's his team, and he's very tuned in there. So if he says champs by double digits, of course, he's referring to the back-to-back titles that they've recently won. Then I kind of agree with him. Now, you kind of missed your chance to do it. I'm seeing 4 at some books, 3.5 pretty much everywhere. The line move to me, there's a 4 at Caesars right now. Wow. The line move to me just says that Reed is definitely playing and that maybe UConn is healthier than Illinois is. So both teams had guys miss recently. I know that the Terrace Reed missing was kind of a surprise, I think, to some, when it kind of came out an hour before the game, and I don't think it was really known at all. So he's back. That's huge for UConn. And like BP, my numbers are a little bit under on the other side. So Joey, I'm seeing, he says with Reed and Mullins healthy. Yeah, Mullins was the other one that had missed. He said his this line should be closer to 7. And I was kind of in that boat too. Now, this is a neutral floor game, but this is one building where I will bump home court a little bit for UConn. It's going to be all UConn fans. They've turned out at the Garden for years. As you can see, very, very unorganized as to where I wrote. Here we go. Here we go. I had the 6.25.
Oh,
UConn minus 6.25 for my number. But these types of games, and also for me, like Illinois, a healthy Illinois team is still very capable of winning this game. And that's the other thing. It was hard to determine the exact health of both teams. So the reason I didn't bet it at the open or earlier this morning is I didn't want to show up and have Illinois fully healthy and UConn have guys out and suddenly it's going to tilt it. But yeah, Stores, Joey says Stores South. That's what I think I called it Stores West. I meant to call it Stores South. It'll be all UConn fans. I do like the Huskies. It's why I showed up in my Husky jacket today, Brian.
Okay. As always, I'll just set it up. That's why I wore a polo sweater here. A few things. Somebody asked in the chat, what is the number that you would consider Illinois? I would say 6. I don't think that's going to get there. So again, that's why I say I imagine I'll be on the sidelines. Number 2, I think the only person walking the face of the earth that it would be worse to be angry at me than Dan Hurley would be Joey Cheese. So I would hate to anger him. I mean, that's certainly 2 very intense individuals. And then something that, in terms of not showing value here on UConn, I'm a little surprised by that trick because this is a team that's 1-5 against the number, UConn. So, this is a short number. You look at the spreads we've seen so far. They were -5 against Arizona, lose that game outright. They were -6.5 against BYU, let them back in late and didn't cover there. The other spreads were all gigantic, so I don't know how much you take away from that. But, they have had 2 single-digit spreads and failed to cover. So usually when a team's 1-5 against the spread trig, I do start to show value on them, unless if they're loyal to Chicago. But I don't know. My numbers are what they are, and I love my numbers, and I don't know. I'm going to probably just sit this one out, I guess.
Listen, BYU and Arizona, both very, very good teams.
And I've got Illinois rated right with those teams.
Yeah, I think Illinois at full strength probably belongs in the mix there. Like a full strength Illinois team is in that sort of like caliber of team, category of team. Last time out, like UConn completely dominated Bryant. They just like didn't cover 35.5. Those spreads of like 35.5, like that was the type of game, and I caught some of that game where like they could have probably named their score. If Hurley wanted to win that game by 50, he would have, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was in hand by halftime. So again, that's another non-cover on UConn's ledger. That's just like, I think they had another one earlier this season, maybe against New Haven, where it was just like, he probably just decided to not embarrass someone on that day. Just for the that day.
Yeah.
Unlike the last time these two teams played, where I think he dropped a 30-0 run on Illinois at one point.
Yes. Oh my God. That's right. That's right. We should, that absolutely needs to be brought up. I mean, I know the players, the names have changed, but the numbers love me when I win. Rex, yeah. Thank you for that. That was a very good guy. That's my clubhouse leader for comment of the day. But yes, we absolutely need to mention this. Shame on me. I was going to do that in the intro. Last time these teams met, it was the Elite Eight, and the game was close for the first part of the first half. And then UConn went on the kill shot of all kill shots, trademark Evan Maya with that term. So I don't know how if that matters at all in the handicap here, the fact that the last time these teams played, UConn annihilated them in the tournament, because it's two different teams.
I think what Joey's saying makes sense, and I think this is fair as a general statement to be like, UConn's been banged up. Like, that's the thing. This is the top 5 team in the country that really hasn't been healthy yet this season. But unlike a lot of other teams in their weight class, they've already racked up big games at Arizona, BYU. They've played a bunch of top competition. I guess that now this week everyone's starting to play big games, but they had already played them. They were banged up. If they show up to the Garden healthy, I kind of do think that this is a UConn by margin type win.
All right. So what have we learned in the last several minutes, everyone? Brian Powers, the only human being walking the face of the earth that believes this game should be lined closer to a pick'em. There we go. So get out with your bad self, everybody.
I do think you're going to see resistance at 4. I think the 4s will be gone. It looks like there's some books that are going to hold at 3, and so. I think if you like UConn, your best bet is to try to grab maybe one of those -3s or play it on the money line. And if you like Illinois, I think your spot to buy in is probably 4. I don't think it's going to get higher than that. All right, Brian Power, we desperately need to hit a parlay on this show. I knew we set unrealistic expectations when we came out at 8 and hit 3 in the first week. We have not hit one yet, but since there's just 2 of us today, we're going to go with the same sort of formula that we've done the past couple 2-man show days, where it's I pick a game, you pick a game, and then we have a joint game. And about 2 minutes before we came on the show, we realized we had a joint client play, a game that we were both looking at, both locked in before the show. So let's give that one out now. I'll let you start it off, since this is
this number just moved. I actually have to lock it in. I'm an idiot. I didn't lock it in after we talked about it. So I have to lock this in right now. This is going to be a client play. Everybody, let me, while I stare Trig, if you want.
Yeah, well, I'll tee it up while you're locking that in. I gave it out, I think 16.5. There's probably still 16s. We're going to talk about Butler and Wright State. I believe this is also an early game. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think 2 p.m. game. This is at Hinkle Fieldhouse. So for me, I know, personally, after the bloodbath that was the last couple days for me, I'm definitely gravitating more toward just the campus, the normal games. I'm getting a little bit away from the MTEs. I think there's just a lot of crazy results. I mean, you're playing multiple games, multiple days, tropical locations. The results have been all over the place. I've been on the wrong side of some of them. So these are the types of games. Just a normal game on a Friday. Wright State, Butler. Used to be a little bit of a rivalry in the Horizon.
Yeah, this was a good rivalry in the Horizon League. Yeah, the Horizon hasn't been the same since Butler left. But I think it's a good spot here, Trig, to sell high on Butler. They won an MTE out in Greenbrier, West Virginia. The name of that country club is
place looks sick. That place is awesome.
It's the Browns have practiced there and stuff in the past, believe it or not. But so Butler out in the MTE, they beat South Carolina 79-72 as a 4-point favorite, and then they upset Virginia as 6.5-point underdogs, 80-73. You look at those 2 games, guys, and they were both pretty impressive performances for the Bulldogs. They shot 61% in the second half against South Carolina. It was a similarly hot start to the game against Virginia. And as you crack open the statistical profile for the Butler team, guys, you're going to find that they've shot the three very well so far, right? Anytime a team's playing well, chances are they're shooting the three well. Well, Butler's 22nd nationally from behind the arc, 40.3%. They're doing an excellent job at cleaning up the offensive glass as well. Fourth highest offensive rebound percentage nationally. So you shoot the three at a 40% clip, you're collecting that high of a percentage of offensive rebounds. Trig, no surprise that you're doing well. But I thought the number, which did get as high as 16.5, had moved too far off the opener. Wright State can do a few things to frustrate their old Horizon League rival and keep this one close. One, the Raiders are also an excellent three-point shooting team, right at 40%. So three-point shooting for the year is kind of a wash between these two teams. Defensively, Wright State turns you over a lot. About 20% of all possessions. That's top 60 in the country. And then Wright State also likes to play slow. Can they win the pace war? Hopefully they can. They're 310th in adjusted tempo. So if Wright State can slow the pace down, Trig, force some turnovers, hit some threes, I see no reason why they can't at the very least stay within the number here. Again, I think we're pretty close to the peak of the market on Butler.
Yeah, Wright State. So in what will be a very wide open horizon this year, like were picked closer to like middle of the pack, 5th, 6th, 7th by a lot of folks.
Yes.
And I think they're going to be closer to the top. So like, I'm pretty high on Wright State just from like a where they were projected to finish type standpoint. Part of the reason I really like them is so they really didn't play any defense last year. And their head coach, Clint Sargent, came out, talked about that, like really wanting to be better on the defensive end of the floor this season. And anytime I've watched them play, that's been the case. Now, you just referenced them being scrappy, forcing turnovers. Like, this is just a much better defensive team than what Wright State was a year ago. And so, and a lot of times, especially in these smaller conferences, with these teams that don't get a ton of national attention, like that will go unnoticed, right? So like, you look at their numbers from last year, then you'll look and say, okay, well, they had a couple of games like the Cal. Well, I actually bet Wright State against Cal. I thought that they hung around in that game and did a great job. They covered the number and were very competitive. So, I mean, if you want to just take a quick comparison, Cal and Butler, similar. Like, they're not, I would say Butler's better, but not by a ton. And Wright State hung step for step with Cal and covered on their home floor out at Haas Pavilion. So that was going all the way across the country, grabbed a cover there. This is just Wright State, one state over, not too much travel. So again, they've played on the road and played all right. The win over Radford is actually quite impressive, in my opinion. Like, I think Radford, like coming into the season, you want to talk about another projection. I thought Radford was the team that could kind of maybe compete with High Point in the Big South. Everyone thinks High Point's going to run away with the Big South, and honestly, they probably will. But like, to me, Radford's the one team that looks like a contender. And they came out and played a pretty good game against, I bet this on Monday and won. And I think it was SMU on Monday where they hung around, really had one sort of lull in that game. And otherwise they covered the number, competed the entire time. Reason I bring that up, Wright State destroyed that team, 92-59, absolutely destroyed Radford. So you talk about in-season results for Wright State, a cover against Cal, the Toledo game we talked about on the show, just being a straight-up bad matchup for Wright State. So they lose to Toledo at home. That was a bad matchup for them. They have not done anything that like puts me off thinking that they're a little bit undervalued. They're playing better defense. So yeah, I'm with you. I took the 16.5 as well. And that's a 3% play for me. And that's also going to be the first leg of the parlay.
3% play for me too. You're getting for free.
All right. We'll since we're gonna lock the parlay in at the end of the show, we'll wait and see what kind of number we can get on that, like at the show close. But honestly, like I was closer to where it opened. So as long as like Wright State doesn't take like an avalanche of money in the next 40 minutes, I think we're gonna be good to play that.
Well, and so it peaked at 16.5. It's down pretty much to 15 now.
Yeah,
and I can see it going back towards the opener. FanDuel's down is the first one that's back down to 14.5 for the record. 15.5 still at DraftKings. So shop.
All right, so I'll tell you what. We'll say 15.5, and then I may just attach the minus 120 to it, so people can just play, either play 15 if they want, or 15.5. It's and the chat asked good at 15. Like, I think so. I've got this. I feel like this is going to be.
I made it 13. Yeah, I made the number 13, so I was actually lower than the opener. So yeah, as long as it doesn't get lower than the opener, I think
I'm
we're right.
pretty sure this is on national TV. I think this might be a CBS Sports Network game. If I'm not,
I actually have that.
And the reason
that page up, I can confirm that in a minute.
or I'm sorry, it's ESPN.
No, it's ESPN Plus.
This game's probably a much bigger deal for Wright State than it is for Butler. Like I feel like this is just a bigger deal for them. And if they show up, they're probably keeping it within single digits. So
they've had a couple extra days to prepare too. They've had a couple extra days to prepare.
All right, I'll touch this one real quick. Garth in the chat. First of all, thank you for the donation, much appreciated.
Thank you, Garth.
Likes, subscribes, comments, everything helps. And we'll make sure that we hit your game if you do donate to the channel. So Garth says thoughts on Southeast Louisiana and Gardner Webb. He leans Southeast Louisiana covering the 6.5. Trig kind of leans that way as well. Don't know why I'm referring to myself in the third person all of a sudden, but that's the way I lean. Yeah. So what I'll point out about this game, this is one of those weird MTEs that's like a school hosts it and then 4 teams go. And so this game's actually in Wilmington, North Carolina. So this is the UNC Wilmington sort of MTE where 4 teams go, they all play each other. Obviously, Wilmington gets home games out of it, and then Southeast Louisiana and Gardner Webb play in front of 3 people. That's pretty much what will happen here, right?
Yes.
Probably 4 people in attendance for this game. It maybe some Gardner Webb fans because they're geographically closer. That being said, I think Gardner Webb is a bad basketball team this year. I have them rated
0-7.
Yeah, like, and the thing is, it's like you could say, well, they're going to win one at some point. Well, they're going to cover at some point. Yeah, probably, but it's probably going to happen at home or like against a team that they're like equals with. I mean, I suppose like you can look at this 2 ways, Brian, and I'm curious to see what your like mindset is for this type of game. Both of these teams just played, so this is the next day in an MTE. I think Gardner Webb got absolutely buried by Navy yesterday. And I believe the Southeast Louisiana score was a little bit deceiving. They were more in that game with Wilmington than the final score suggests. Like I think Wilmington kind of covered at the end, but Southeast Louisiana was pretty competitive. I wish our guy Keith Bayou Betts Landry was in the chat today because that's Southeast Louisiana is his squad. He is my guy for Southeast Louisiana info. But just from what I've seen out of these 2 teams, like there is a clear difference. Like Southeast Louisiana, if Southeast Louisiana shows up and cares about this game at all, they should win by double digits. So I would agree with that.
All right, so let me just I looked up. So Southeast Louisiana yesterday against Wilmington, they were up 6 at the half. Trig.
Yes, that's right.
They were winning outright at the half in that game, and then they just got blitzed in the second, got outscored 43-24 over the last 20 minutes. Now the Gardner Webb running Bulldogs here, it's not going well. They lost yesterday. I mean, they lost by 33 against Navy. That's real bad. Where is Gardner Webb? Let me look. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom. Like Gardner Webb has got to be one of the worst teams in the country, right? I mean, this is like just
they're down.
I have them as a bottom 5 team in the country. The teams that are worse are all SWAC teams. So Gardner Webb, there's just nothing to like here at all. And my God, is this team bad defensively? I'm not going to lie. Okay. I don't sit and watch Gardner Webb on the television every day. So I'm just like looking at the numbers here. And this is a bleak picture. Something that's interesting to me, if you don't want to lay it with Southeast Louisiana, a lot of times I get a little gun shy about laying it with teams because Southeast Louisiana, we're not exactly going to be seeing them in the Final Four come April. Trig, needless to say. If you like that, maybe a team total over in honor of our third colleague Rob Vino, because they have not shot the 3 well, and this is a game, a matchup, if you will, to me, where the offense gets right for Sela.
Well, yeah, and the other thing you got to point out with Southeast Louisiana in terms of like shooting the ball, just look at their first 4 games, or really all 5 of their games, right? Like UNC Wilmington is a very, very good basketball team. Mm-hmm. They have not had CJ Luster yet this year, and I think that they've still only lost 1 game, and it was a game that they could have absolutely won against Kent State. And that's a good Kent State team. And that was on the road. That's Wilmington's only loss. Like Wilmington is right. They will be right in the mix with Towson and who maybe I don't even think Charleston's on their level. I think it's going to be Towson or Wilmington in the CAA. But this is a really, really good team, and they always play well at home. Trask Coliseum. I don't know if what the atmosphere was like last night. I didn't catch that, but like almost every home game for them, Wilmington is like a raucous atmosphere. It's one of the better mid-major sort of like crowds that you're going to get on a game in and game out basis. So like the reason I bring that up is aside from the non-D1 game that doesn't really get factored into numbers that much, that's CELA's one win. Southeast Louisiana this year has played at Ole Miss, at Louisiana Lafayette, at Georgia Tech, at Mississippi State, and now at UNCW, because even though this is an MTE, that's of course a home game for Wilmington. So 5 road games, and now they're going to essentially drop in class from like power conference teams or a Wilmington team that's probably going to the NCAA tournament down to what you have called a bottom 10 team in the country. And I really can't disagree with you there. So yeah, I mean, I made this number a little bit like I showed a slight edge to CELA on the number, but yeah, I think that them scoring, because again, this is a noon tip, it could turn into a free for all. Maybe the team total over is the way to go.
Yeah. Just to put a number here, CELA shot 17% in this building yesterday from 3. So you would expect, obviously, that number is going to go up. Should we get to this VCU Vatech game? Because I think the chat may come at it. Because it's about the tip, and the chat's going to come at us with pitchforks if we don't talk about it before it tips. Look, it's not, guys, remember, people catch us on the replay, and they don't want to, they're going to speed through games that have already tipped. It's a hard game to handicap because you're talking about a 10:30 a.m. Eastern tip, 1 day removed from both teams not playing well. It's a consolation bracket and an MTE. Honestly, and why I don't want to bet this game, Trig, is because it involves something that I can't quantify. Who's going to want it? I think it honestly just comes down, and this is not an adage that I say very often on WagerTalk TV. This comes down to who wants it more. Who woke up this morning and wants to win this game? Because if one of those teams is kind of like, whatever, and the other one really wants it, that's what's going to happen. I would say that maybe Vatech, they failed to cover now 4 in a row. You can get, 2.5? 3 now? I might, if you force me to make a bet, I would take the 3 with the Hokies, but it's not going to make my card.
It looks like Toby Lawal will remain out for this game.
Which has been a problem.
Yeah. I mean, he averages a double-double. So like, even though he was out last game as well, that's a tough guy to not have.
Yes,
and
that's why the line move. That's why the line is moving. I would suspect. That's
why the line is moving. Yeah, that's a tough guy to not have in there if you're Virginia Tech, in my opinion. So I think that, like, again, I have absolutely no desire to bet this game. This 10:30 tip in the Bahamas, like you said, like, who wants it more? I think this was the one location where, like, the first day of the tournament, like, no one could shoot. Now the shooting was like a little bit better yesterday. So, Lawal being out, I don't know. I think maybe that lends itself to, like, he is a good rim defender. You could just go over. I would say like over probably makes some sense.
Vatech only had 20 points in the first half against St. Mary's, but again, that's St. Mary's. So I don't know. Yeah, it was an easy pass for me.
Yeah, I think I'd have to fire something off here with like 30 seconds before the game tips. I think I would either go VCU or over, and not with any sort of real conviction. So I guess we had to cover it. We touched on that one, and now we're going to move on to a different game. Let's get back in the chat here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I know everyone is probably has other things to do this weekend with family and stuff. So we appreciate that you made time to listen to us chat basketball. Hopefully we can put you on a winner or two. I gave out, I'll give it, you know what? I'm going to give out another client play right now, just because like I've had 3 really like awful days. So I'd rather just give you the college hoop. I am on I am going for a 5th straight college football winner that I've made a 5% play, but that's not till tomorrow. But I'm just going to promote it here because if I don't sell picks, then we don't get paid. So we gotta promote sometimes.
Yes.
But contrary to popular belief, they do not pay us to do this. We have to sell the picks to make a few bucks here. So I want to give out my leg of the parlay, and I'm going to go to a late game Drake LSU. I'm going to check the current number to see if it's still there. But I played Drake plus 12.5. I'm curious to see if it's still 12.5, pretty much across the board. And so reason I like Drake is it's really two reasons. One, so this is a neutral court game down in Florida, I believe. And Drake came out of the gate this year and probably played as like far off of their rating as like maybe any team in the country. Those first maybe week or two, they got completely they lost a game. They lost to Robert Morris and they lost to SIU Edwardsville. They didn't play good against a bad Northern Arizona team. And that was essentially their first 4 games. They had a non-board game in there as well. I felt like they turned the corner a little bit in that Charleston game. And here's the key with Drake. Now, this would just be the bonus of all bonuses if this happens. Owen Larson has not played yet this year. I doubt he plays tonight, but I do know that the target for him coming back was like early December. And I hadn't heard of they haven't updated it. I don't think I haven't watched a Drake game. Like Drake's last game was against a non-Division I team. I didn't catch that game. But the point is, like, he is so massive. And if he's like getting back into practice and he's getting close to getting back, like that's a plus for them, even if he's not back on the floor yet. The second thing is Eric Henderson's is a solid coach. Like Drake is going to improve. It's not obviously McCollum anymore. He's now at Iowa, but Henderson comes, I believe, from South Dakota State. He's always won there. He's probably going to end up winning here. And then Brian, I'll let you sort of fill in the blanks on LSU a little bit. They really haven't played anyone yet. And the one game that I think is super deceiving on LSU's ledger right now. So they basically smashed 5 like FIU, Omaha, Alcorn State, Tarleton, New Orleans. That Tarleton game, they kicked out Tarleton's best player like 5 minutes into the game. And then their other best player played like 1 minute. Deceiving, stat line there. They keep catching teams that are like in bad spots. I think Omaha was banged up going into that game last time out. So to me, LSU has proved nothing yet. This is the toughest opponent that they'll probably have played yet this year. And they finally leave Baton Rouge. Now they're on a neutral floor in Florida.
That's what I was going to say.
So give me the 12.5 points. Drake plus 12.5, 3% play for me.
Yeah, and while LSU's been impressive at the offensive edge, Drake, I mean, they gave up 81 to Alcorn, 81 to FIU, 73 to Omaha. Those aren't good defensive numbers at home at all. So, I think LSU is a potential sell high team. Similar to what we talked about with Butler earlier. I did see a question in the chat. I think somebody must have just missed it. Was it Jason maybe? Or was it? I didn't mark it. Oh, that's embarrassing. Yes, Jason Jones in the chat asked, I haven't heard you guys mention Butler on the show yet. We did. Both Trig and I like Wright State. You can check that out if you want to go back in the timestamps right now. The 13-minute mark, we begin discussing the Wright State Butler game, if you want that. I'm also going to just take a second to promote Trig. I know you talked about the 5% college football play you've got on tap. Guys, don't forget, if you want to get every college basketball play that Trig releases, I release, and Rob will be back on the show next week, you can get 3 days of us for $78. That is available on all of our pages right now. Now, if you'd like to get just me and all basketball, I'm bringing this up, Trig, for a reason, both NBA and college hoops, 3 days, you can get on board for $49. That's also on my page. I'm bringing that up because I gave you my college hoops play for free today, Wright State. But I do have an NBA play. We're dipping our toes back in the NBA waters, Trig, with a 4% best bet. This is a spot I have been waiting for very patiently for a while now, and I am firing. Going back to last year's tremendous run in the playoffs, where every Indiana Pacers fan in America wanted to kill me. We are 12-2, our last 14 selections in the NBA. So a 4% best bet in the NBA tonight. You can get that at my page, wt.buzz/BP.
Yeah, I see. I know that, it's a little counterintuitive and they want us to highlight the streaks, but I think it's a much more effective promo to be like, hey, I've been god awful the last 3 days. So this is the time to buy. So this is when you want Trig. You didn't want him the last 3 days. You want him this weekend. That's my promo right there.
I agree. Like I
I
said, I was very happy when I saw you were on Colorado State last night with me. So.
Yeah, we're seeing eye to eye on a couple today as well. So Cappy Corner says he's going to the Drake game. I believe this is in Destin, Florida. Sounds nice. I'm looking out.
I've been there before to Destin. That's my wife's parents. They're snowbirds. They drive all the way around Florida. Isn't there spring training in Destin? I believe I've caught a spring training game in Destin. Isn't that where the Blue Jays play? No, it's Dunedin. That's
Dunedin, but still, Destin, Florida sounds fantastic. Okay. I am looking out my window right now. There's already 6 inches of snow, and we're probably got another.
Driving home from my parents' house last night was horrible, but nobody wants to hear about.
Yeah,
that.
it was. It's going to be a rough weekend here. We're getting a lot of snow. So I plan on going nowhere. I'm going to be watching college basketball for like 72 hours, maybe sprinkle in some football, maybe leave the house at some point in time. I feel like I haven't in days, but
it's always good to get some fresh air.
And one more thing before we move on, great little tidbit from 12 Colsey here. He says Drake has won each of its last 12 games against non-AP ranked opponents at a neutral venue. It's an interesting stat. This, of course, is a neutral
venue. Not have that. Wow.
Great stuff from the chat as always. All right, let's keep it going. We're 23 minutes from the end. Do you know what your parlay leg is going to be? Do you want
I don't.
Go there?
All right, I came out here ready to fire on Wright State. Yeah. So,
all right,
I'm going to skip that. Let's go to the chat here. Santa Clara, we could talk.
Well, I kind of got one I want to. I got one we should throw out. Let's because this is an interesting game to me. So yesterday, you and I both agreed on Colorado State.
Yes.
But I also think you and I were both more in fade Wichita State mode. At least I was. Like I don't mind that Colorado State team. I think Ali Farokhmanesh is probably a much better coach than people realize. Like he, of course, takes over for Nico Medved. He was the top assistant there, but I think he was the brains behind a lot of what was going on. So I upgraded Colorado State in my rankings from what I had them at earlier in the season. That being said, they turn around and now have to play South Florida, who is going to just run them up and down the floor.
Yeah.
And B, has not played well yet in this tournament, but they figured it out in the second half and were able to come back and win in overtime. I kind of lean USF here. I was curious to get your take on this one.
USF's not the kind of team you want to play without rest because just the style of basketball they play. That is just not a team. Yeah, I mean, especially like at the end of an MTE, right? So I mean, this is what 3 games in 3 days now in Atlantis. I mean, yeah, that's like one of the South Florida would be on the short list of the absolute worst teams you could play in a 3rd game in 3 days. Day after Thanksgiving, there certainly is a chance they get run out of the gym.
Yeah, this I may have to add this one too, especially if before it moves and I can get a cheap money line. I guess the reason Brian Hodgson's going to play like he wants to play like Alabama plays. That's his whole MO. It's what he did at Arkansas State. He comes from the Nate Oates coaching tree. He wants to go up and down. Shot volume, like it is going to be crazy. The pace is going to be crazy. And also, I kind of made a joke about it, but like Colorado State, if that game went another 5 minutes, they may have lost that game. Like thank God that Kenyon Giles finally missed a crazy 3 that he chucked up because they were really starting to ask for it. And what happened? Wichita State was down so much that they really just turned it into a game. They turned it into the type of game that South Florida is going to play right out of the rip, right? Like they started to press. They started to kind of get what Wichita State had to get away from their game because they were down 21 and they came all the way back, Brian. I think they had it down to 6 at one point with the ball. So if that's the type of game that Colorado State's going to see right off the bat and they've played this many consecutive days, I think I got to play USF here.
You know what game we need to talk about because it's a big game? and it's in Atlantis. And I mentioned at the top, we still have 28 teams undefeated in the country, and we're guaranteed to lose one. The reason we're guaranteed to lose one today, guys, is the championship game of the battle for Atlantis is Vanderbilt and St. Mary's. Obviously Illinois, UConn is the headliner today. It's why we opened up the program. This is unequivocally to me the second best game on the slate. Vanderbilt and St. Mary's, and it's a pace war. Who's going to win this game? Well, who dictates pace? These two teams do not play the same at all. Vandy wants to get up and down, and it's it. We just talked about South Florida, right? If third game in 3 days now for St. Mary's, we know how they like to play slow, make you uncomfortable. We saw what they did defensively against Virginia Tech. We talked about it earlier in the program. Whoever dictates pace is going to win this game. Obviously, I know that's kind of a cheap way to get out of picking a winner here, but Vandy, don't forget, I'll say this. A lot of times revenge, we were talking about Butler and Wright State, how it used to be a Horizon League rivalry. Obviously, none of the players that are playing in this game today care about that at all. That was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. Those teams were conference rivals. I mean, these kids were, still in grade school when that was going on. But this is a situation with legit revenge on the Vandy side, Trig. They lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to the Gales last year. I think it's on the mind. I like this Vandy team, quite frankly. Small lean to the commies here in the Atlantis Championship.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I think St. Mary's is one of those teams where if you play their game and they get the game that they want, they're going to be tough to beat. But if you can get them out of that, it's like we've seen them lose to teams that are far worse than them when they're very good. So it's like really just about, can Vanderbilt play the game they want to play? In my opinion, if they do, then I think they've got just as good a chance as any to win. So I can't really disagree. I can't really argue with that. I got a thought on this one. Let's we've got 18 minutes left. We'll still hit a bunch more games, but I know there's a ton of games, and we'll start to go a little bit quicker. We'll get Brian Powers Parlay Leg. Brian Parlay.
Easy to say, yeah. Even to say, easy to say.
Be like Parlay Club, Brian Parlay.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, any thoughts on BYU minus 10.5 at Dayton or against Dayton? That's another MTE game down in somewhere. I think they're in Florida as well somewhere. A lot of these teams in Florida for the weekend.
Yes.
I don't think Dayton is any good. Like I think they straight up get smashed here. I don't know if like you're getting much value on a BYU spread these days, because of course they won and covered yesterday, and it feels like everyone in the country loves this BYU team.
Yes.
But like I think Dayton is a team that's gonna, like, when they play competition that's like better than them, I think they're gonna get run out of the gym. They don't handle the ball well. They were a little bit fortunate to win last night. I watched them play Bethune-Cookman. They looked terrible, totally just sloppy. That's not going to fly against BYU, in my opinion. So I would actually lay it with the Cougars here.
Dayton has played a really weak. You talk about being scared of them when they step up in class. They've played a pretty weak schedule to this point. Dayton, 228th in strength of schedule. BYU, they've played a much stronger schedule, obviously. And, their only loss was the game against UConn that we talked about earlier. BYU doesn't turn the ball over. Dayton doesn't turn you over. BYU does. So, if you're a lot of times for these underdogs to pull the upset, they need to do one of two. They need to either get hot from three or get extra possessions by turning you over. And I just don't see Dayton doing that here at all. This game is in Kissimmee, Florida, by the way, for those keeping score. And another way that you can create extra possessions for yourself is offensive rebounding. Well, BYU is way better than Dayton at that. So, it's a big number to lay, but I think Dayton kind of there's the potential here for Dayton to get run out of the gym.
I think BYU, as the season goes along, is going to continue to just get better and better. Like they're just going to, I have a feeling that some of the results early on, I think there was a game where they kind of let like Delaware hang around or something like that. Like, by like January or February, this team's just going to be a wagon, as the kids like to say, Brian. Like they're just going to smash teams. And Dayton, you want to talk about a reason to downgrade Dayton. Dayton lost to Cincinnati. Our boys from the MAC, Eastern Michigan, just beat the Cincinnati Bearcats as like a
Yes,
20,
I did. I saw that.
20
Yes.
and a half point underdog. Like, so that to me, like that loss looks a lot worse to Cincinnati, where Dayton wasn't even really that competitive, lost by 12. That loss looks bad. Oh, the game you and I were together, and UMBC took Dayton to like the wire. Ended up being like a 6-point game. There is I have my concerns with Dayton. I know they managed to beat Marquette. I don't know. I just don't think they're very good. Like I think BYU blows them out. Let's go to Garth. He's donated again, so we're gonna actually have a pretty big opinion on this game. So trend play. Garth says trend play. Hawaii first half home games have gone under in 15 of the last 21. Play Hawaii, North Dakota first half under 70.5. Now, Brian, I'll let you comment on the totals trend. I do wish we had Vino because he'd be all over any sort of total type trend. But I do want to talk about this game because I have had success playing against this Hawaii team in their own building this year. The market loves Hawaii this year. They probably have one of the better teams that they've had in a while, and they look like a real threat to contend in the Big West for the first time in a while. With that being said, the number on a lot of these games for Hawaii gets out of control.
Yes.
I played Utah Tech in this same area. It steamed all the way up to like 17.5 or something from like 14 or 13. Like it moved like 5 points. It was like a 6-point game. Easy win. Last week I cashed with Arizona State. They were an underdog at Hawaii. Didn't think that should have been the case. Now they certainly wouldn't be. They ended up winning that game. I'm seeing 18.5s here. Like I'm going to have to dig into North Dakota a little bit more. But I'll tell you right off the bat, like that, I've got that. Sure, I'm going to wait and see how the day goes, Brian. But if they're just going to keep pouring money into this midnight Hawaii tip standalone, that tends to happen a lot of times with Hawaii when they play like a home game. There will be a point where I'll be willing to punch back and take North Dakota. So I lean North Dakota here. But Garth also asked about the total, so I'll let you take that part away.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to make North Dakota my leg of the parlay. This number's way too high. This number's way too high. This number's way too high.
I'm seeing I see an 18.5 at MGM.
And I know, yeah, I mean, 18, it's up to 18. Yeah, I mean, I know it's circa, that's lead, which always makes you a little, because it's a sharper book, but I just can't get to this number. I mean, it's a straight numbers play. I hate to make you guys stay up to cash this 3-legger, but hey, sometimes good things come to those who wait. I just think this number's, I thought the number was a little high and open, and now that it's moved an additional 2 points, I just straight numbers play. I'm going North Dakota there. I get it with Trevor. I see what Trevor says in the chat that yes, there is a chance that North Dakota, they fly out to Hawaii for Thanksgiving weekend. It's a lot nicer in Honolulu than it is in Fargo this time of year. I understand. Maybe they get distracted, but I don't know. I just think this number's way too high.
I think for me, especially right now, I just don't think Hawaii has like this huge home court edge that everyone bakes into the number. Like the building is going to be half full at best, right? Like this isn't like, I feel like back in the Mountain West days when Hawaii was in the Mountain West and played big games and like San Diego State would come in, or like, like UNLV when they were good, or a team like that, like a BYU, they would get a big crowd. They've been in the Big West for a while. Like their home games just don't have that kind of juice anymore. And even last week, getting a Big 12 team in Arizona State, like it was a good crowd, wasn't a great crowd. It wasn't like some like crazy atmosphere. So North Dakota's, to me, is going to be a lot more like the Utah Tech game, where it was like, like maybe half full. And again, I just like the books are baking in this big home court edge for Hawaii. And on top of that, because Hawaii is a team that people are gravitating toward this year, there's like, it's shaded to Hawaii as well. So that's why our number is nowhere close to this. But I think we're right about that. I think this should be closer to like 13, 14, yes. 18. I mean, Hawaii to win this game by 20 is going to have to dominate. I don't know if Hawaii is good enough to truly dominate yet. They're good. They're going to win a lot of games. They're going to win games like this, but win them by 20. I got to pump the brakes there. So I'm with you. That's a good
they only won by 12 over a non-board team last time out. Now they did beat your Manhattan Jaspers by 30.
That Manhattan's been missing their best player all season.
And then they beat Mississippi Valley State, who's of course just, an atrocity. They beat them by 32. And they started out with 3 big wins to the Warriors, but since then, I mean, they've played a few close, 3 straight games that have been kind of close. You look at North Dakota, okay, are they maybe a little road weary? They've been traveling all around, but their biggest loss so far this year was 17 against Coastal Carolina. It's not great, but again, I don't know.
I'll just speak on Coastal Carolina real quick. That was part of an MTE. That game, I believe, was on the campus of Western Illinois. I think they're the Leathernecks. Did I get that right?
They are the Leathernecks.
They're the Leathernecks.
Yes.
That was I believe that was day 2 of like one of these MTEs where it's like how I messed up my camera. I think we're back. How, day 2 of an MTE, like how I'm not going to dock you that many points for getting crushed on like the second day. Coastal Carolina is to me a very underrated team this year. So the more we sort of ramble on about this one, the more I feel like I'm going to talk myself into staying up with you tonight and grind it out.
North Dakota
on the island.
Yeah.
The chat really wants to hear about this Marquette game. Can we get that one in before the we've got the parlay locked in, so we do have 9 minutes. This is, I believe, Marquette, Oklahoma, and I think this game is where Illinois Chicago plays. It's in Chicago. I believe it is at the home of the Flames.
The UIC Pavilion.
Yes. Yep. Now I believe sponsored by Credit One for those keeping track at home. But what do you make of this game? This was one I had a hard time making heads or tails of, Brian.
I'll tell you what, Starcade 87 took place at the UAC Pavilion back on Thanksgiving about 40 years ago.
How about Scott Steiner? How about Scott Steiner's like nephew banging threes for us last night for Colorado?
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. What do I think about it? Yeah, I mean, so everyone kind of is looking at this as a buy low spot for Shaka Smart. I don't know. I was like right on market with this. I didn't do a huge deep dive into this game. I'll be honest with you. It was just one of those things that I just, when I made a number, it was like right on market. So I wasn't like, there were just other games that attracted me more. The thing is, you talk about being a buy low spot on Marquette. This is why it was. I knew there was a reason. Oklahoma has not covered 5 in a row. So you could argue from a value perspective, there's a little buy low on both teams. So, you can't buy low. You can only buy low on one. You can't buy low on both. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to lose. I don't know. This is like I'm sorry, gang. I mean, if you feel that passionately about Marquette, I'll tell you to bet it. I'm not going to talk you. I'm not going to sit here and say I feel strong enough about Oklahoma to talk you off of it. I'm just going to tell you that I'm not going to be betting this game here on Friday afternoon.
Something's up with Marquette. That's the thing. And I badly want to like Marquette in this game. Yet Oklahoma's the side that's taking all the money right now. Up to 2.5 some places. From this open pick, maybe Oklahoma -1. I'm seeing books going to 2.5 on the Sooners.
Oklahoma's getting healthier now with Jones back. Marquette doesn't really have a second scoring option behind Ross. So, I think that's another concern for the Golden Eagles side.
Yeah, like I've watched Marquette's last 3 games and big time concerns for me with this team. First of all, they lost to Maryland when Maryland was missing like 3 starters. Okay. Maryland was missing like 3 of their 5 starters and they beat Marquette, I believe, in Milwaukee at Fiserv. So that's actually a much worse loss than it looks like just looking in the box score. The next game, they lose to Dayton, also on their home floor. And I just ripped Dayton like 10 minutes ago on this very show. Right here, just 10 minutes ago. I talked about how I had to downgrade Dayton even further for losing to Cincinnati. Like Marquette got beat by Dayton at home. And then last time out, they were, kind of unimpressive against Central Michigan. They let the Chippewas, Brian, hang around. That was a 5-point game at halftime. They ended up winning by 15, but I want to say the number was like 22.5, 23. Like, again, like I just don't trust Marquette right now. So probably Sooners are past, but it's a tough one. That's neutral court. Geographically, Marquette fans should be able to, although I don't know if you want to go to that part of Chicago, to be honest. Like, they might stay home. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll see. At any rate, it's a tough one. It's a good discussion. I think you can make a lot of interesting points. Let's get Trevor says Marquette, my biggest bet of the day. Shock over Porter Moser. Yeah, normally I would agree with that, but like I just feel like Marquette's off, and that's why I can't get there. Yeah.
I mean, you have two teams. I mean, it's got you can argue the get right spot buy low for either team. I mean, that makes it a tough handicap.
John, appreciate you. Thank you for the kind words. He said, Adam, Brian, you guys do a great job. And with Rob Vino's wisdom, yes, Rob Vino is he has the biggest brain at WagerTalk. It's not even close. Yeah, he's the biggest brain at WagerTalk. There's more knowledge in that brain than I think anyone else.
My brain not as big under this big mop. Yes, I will say if you're catching us on replay, and you weren't able to, not able to catch the show live, not able to comment. Of course, we're live every 10 a.m. Monday through Friday here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. But if you're just pardon me, I got so choked up about supporting the show. If you want to show support for the show and you're watching us on replay, it's very simple, guys. Smash that like button. Or if you already haven't done so, if you're not subscribed to the WagerTalk YouTube channel, please do that now. As a matter of fact, you will be automatically notified when this show goes live, and then you won't miss it. And then you can comment live as we go along.
John says from snowy Northeast Ohio. He's your neighbor, Brian. Well, I know Northeast Ohio is a vast area. Could be anywhere.
It is.
But
it is very snowy here.
Snowy Central New York right now too. We're probably getting all the same weather right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna probably get buried over the next 3 days. Don't live close to a lake. That's the moral of the story right there.
Yeah.
All right, this is an interesting one. Get back spot for Florida today. Maybe because I don't really care for their opponent.
Providence.
But don't really care for Providence, but does Florida look like a lot less athletic to you than they were last year?
Yes.
And is that
I chickened out. I told you, I think right before we went on the show that I was low, like Florida. I'm kind of like my power ratings have shown value to bet against them. I didn't. And here's the thing though. Sometimes, we talk about, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have bet against them last night, obviously, but I remember my numbers showed value against them when they were playing Miami, and that was a bet that I'm glad I did not make on the Hurricanes because Florida covered there. Look, Florida is a great rebounding team. We understand that, I think that's going to make up for a lot of their warts, for lack of a better term. I don't know. That might seem a little too harsh. Warts. I mean, obviously, it's a team that won the national championship. They're one of the 10 to 15 best teams in the country. Still, no doubt about it. But I don't know. I've every Florida game, Trig, pretty much, I've shown a little bit of value on the other side. Yep. Interestingly enough, though, and this is not what anyone wants to hear, this is sort of the first game where I'm not showing a lot of value. Like, I think the market's maybe kind of slightly, even though they're taking money, this number's up to 12 now. So I don't know if it gets a little higher. I'm probably going to show a little bit of value, but I don't want to bet Providence in this spot. Well,
what'll kill value on the other side of a team is when Florida loses to TCU. That's going to be a value killer. So, your numbers have been right. First of all, that Miami game, they covered, but that was a more competitive game than 14. It ended up being a 14-point final, but Miami was in that game for long stretches. Of course, Florida State could have beat them. That was a 2-point game, 2-point final. The other games, they lose to Arizona to start the season. The other two were North Florida and Merrimack are bad this year. So, Florida's going to need to show me a little bit more, but I'll say that, and I talked about this with Matt yesterday. I have a good buddy that went to Providence and is pretty tuned into Providence basketball. I know he's he's kind of my Providence insider, if you will. He told me that this team doesn't really get along. So basically you have this weird dynamic, which I'm sure sort of happens in college sports now, where you have incoming freshmen and then you have upperclassmen that transfer in, but they're still all new to the school, right? So Brian, you went to high school and college, and it's when you're a freshman, if a senior, they might talk down to you a little bit, especially if you're on a team, they might, you kind of almost have to defer to the upperclassmen. Well, what I'm hearing is that Kim English, coach of Providence, maybe like prefers the guys that he recruited, his freshmen, over the hired guns that he brought in. But like those guys are upperclassmen, so they probably feel like they're entitled to like, the treatment that an upperclassman would get, but they're really all new to the school. And what he's telling me is it's created a dynamic that's not exactly ideal. And then Trevor in the chat basically said, well, this Providence team sucks. I don't
Certainly
really disagree
the
with
less
that.
technical handicap, yes, but yeah.
Like I don't disagree with that. I kind of think Providence might be just not very good. Like they've got a couple of players that can score, and they have some redeeming qualities in that regard. But like when I look at this roster overall, it's a lot of like B- talent, like especially like you're talking about the context of the Big East. Like I kind of feel like this is a team that's like 8th or 9th in the Big East this year. And I just don't think that I really have any interest in backing them in any capacity, even here. I think I'd lean toward Florida.
All right. I think we've hit the hour.
Yeah, we have hit the hour. We're just cruising along. I kind of lost track of time, but yeah, before our stream gets cut, we should probably wrap up the parlay. So the 3-teamer today is a joint. We've got each have a leg, and then we have a joint leg. So the joint leg, Wright State. Can we go plus 15.5, Brian? If we put the minus 120 in, is that fair? Or do we have to give out 15? I'll let you.
There's no 15. Nobody's getting 15.5 at this point. The 15s are disappearing.
Let's call it 15, and I will attach a minus 120 just in case you have to like do an alt line or buy the point. What are we looking at for North Dakota? 18?
I think we can even that we can do 18.5.
18.5. See, you might even be able to wait if you want to bet that game.
Yeah,
you might.
And I would wait. Yes.
And then Drake looks like 12.5 just about everywhere. So that is the 3-teamer. We'll call it plus 568 odds. 568. We'll go Wright State plus 15. North Dakota State let me start over. Wright State plus 15. That's also a client play for both Brian and I. 3% play for both of us. North Dakota plus 18.5 late night out on the island. And then I'm going to go with another one of my client plays. That's Drake plus 12.5 tonight in Destin, Florida against LSU. So that's the 3-teamer. Drake plus 12.5, North Dakota plus 18.5, Wright State plus 15. 3 double-digit dogs for the parlay today, Brian. What could go wrong? Hopefully this is the day we get it done. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us for Feast Week. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy some hoops, maybe some time with your family. Stay warm, stay safe, and we will be back Monday morning, 10 a.m. for more Full Court Press.